Hi everyone. So before the Easter shutdown I'm going to have, I thought I'd drop on here and do a little sort of recent reads kind of thing. Talk about 3 books and a movie that have been consumed recently. So starting with 2010, Odyssey 2 by Arthur C. Clarke. So this is a little project I'm doing following all the 2001 A Space Odyssey derivations and variations and so on consecutively, and this is a novel that came out in 1982. So whereas 2001 was written concurrently with the development of the movie, this was just Arthur C. Clarke writing a book. So he had a lot more freedom, I think. So although 2001 was a big budget movie, I don't think Clarke would have been able to suddenly, at the last moment throw in an extra alien being or character or plot twist, because even though it was a big budget film, they couldn't do everything. Plus he was sort of in a sort of 3-legged race with Stanley Kubrick, I guess, in terms of the creativity of the thing. And they, in that original film, they swapped Saturn for Jupiter because they couldn't afford to make the rings, So anyway, in this, he can do what he wants, and that includes more characters. Some of them are women. Not many women showed up in the first book and movie, so now you've got a much more diverse cast, a lot more sort of character interaction and so on. So it's 9 years later in the timeline of the story, because it's 2010, was 2001, now 2010, and basically there's a mission to recover the original spacecraft and try and figure out what happened in the 2001 story. So people on Earth, they don't know all the cosmic stuff, they just know that people disappeared and there was an ambivalent message, and they know there's a great big monolith floating around. So yeah, that happens. Some of the original characters reappear, human and other. So I'm trying to do it without any spoilers. Just say I found this really enjoyable. I mean, it's pretty, there's lots of technical stuff that can be quite sort of absorbing. It reminded me of Kim Stanley Robinson, I suppose it should be the other way round, in the sort of following through some of the implications of the technologies and getting into some of the nitty-gritty of how things work. So yeah, Odyssey 2, pretty good. I'm still on board for the saga. One interesting thing about it is that Americans and Russians work together. They're actually in a sort of joint block, and there is some sort of space race type jeopardy. There's a jeopard on the loose because there is also a Chinese mission. That's the sort of the other lot.
Chinese jeopards.
Different, yeah.
Ooh.
Different in the film. So moving on to the film, which was pretty good. It's kind of like a slice through this story, but there's sort of a Cold War antagonism between America and Russia. China isn't even mentioned, and that has a lot more prominence, and I rather preferred the Clarke way of doing it, not just because I'm a sort of peacenik, but because there's some really interesting like cultural merging between the Americans and the Russians on the spacecraft. Yeah, movie, it's okay. I can see why some folks enjoy it maybe more than the original film, because it's much more of a story. There's probably more dialogue in the first 5 minutes than in the whole of 2001. It's got a pretty good cast. Helen Mirren's in it. She removes her armour from Excalibur and comes into this and does a pretty good job of being a Russian captain of the spaceship, although she's rather subdued compared to the Helen Mirren we know and love these days. it's fine. I think the resolution of the story in the novel is kind of a big cosmic thing that is interesting and is sort of benefits everyone, perhaps. But this goes further, and it's kind of like the solution to everything. So it's a little bit of a sort of a Santa Claus ending, I suppose. But it's fine, and that's the last of these things to have been filmed. So enjoy it all we can. I thought it was curiously subdued. Not just Helen Mirren, but I thought the whole thing was a little bit flat.
Yeah.
And special effects.
I fell asleep for about half an hour.
Yeah, you see, Doctor.
And didn't feel I'd missed anything vital when I woke up.
No.
And there were no Chinese Jeopards.
No, without the Chinese Jeopards.
Nah. Ruined the whole thing for me.
And the special effects were neither like today's kind of CGI kind of things, or the sort of full-on art direction to infinity that you got in the original movie. So everything felt a little bit smaller.
I wanted pretty lights.
Yeah, still with it. So that was 2010. I also read The Auctioneer, and this was a group read on Ollie's Discord. So The Auctioneer by Joan Sansom comes under the paperbacks from Hell banner, although it's unlike most of those. It's not any kind of trashy gore fest. But it's I'd see it more as kind of a lit fic novel, really. Getting there anyway. So The Auctioneer, so small town in America, and there's the family we follow. They're farming. They're pretty much on the cusp of, they're just keeping things going just about with the farm. There's a couple with a little kid, and their old mother lives there as well. And then it's one of those stories where there's like one thing that develops the sort of tension, throughout. Think of the movie Duel, for instance. Just one thing. So this guy arrives in the town. He's an auctioneer, and he's buddies with the one sheriff that the town has, who comes round and says to like, we're doing this auction for raise money for the police force. There's a few things we'd like to get. Have you got any old furniture? Because these townies, they come out from the cities, they buy this cute old, but basically buy old junk to sort of decorate their homes and stuff. The fools. So if you got any, anything you don't want, so you take something away. And then this keeps happening, and that's the thing. And it's not, is it some sort of supernatural power, or is it just because the sheriff and his increasing numbers of deputies are the ones with the guns? They just come back every week and ask for more stuff, and it goes from like, here's some old junk, we wanted to clear the space anyway, to like, okay, have our inherited piece of furniture that we really love. And it goes on and on and on and on till people are like depleted of just about everything. So it's like, well, how's that going to work out? And how can they defeat, what's become like the sort of the power centre of this town, with like all these, various ne'er-do-wells become part of this police force. So it's a fascinating book. Really, really does a good job of this sort of slow burn kind of threat, and you don't know how it's going to end up. How can people sort of overcome this? It's actually quite harrowing, because it's not a kind of uncanny evil that never really occurs, or that only rarely happens in real life. It's much more the sort of the banality of evil. And some modern readers now see it as a kind of a fable for our times, of the kind of kleptocracy. When you've got a government who's robbing everything off you and sort of strip mining all your assets and making out it's a good thing, and everyone's going along with it even though they don't really want to. And then the ending, whoo, blimey. So The Auctioneer.
Wow. Wow.
The Auctioneer, Joan Sansom. Really, really good.
That's some accolade.
Oh, and there's the doorbell.
Changes your character though, doesn't it? I say, but I can really remember this star, do you know?
Yes, I remember it well.
You do, you cheeky little... What's it?
Going to the door.
Right, so while that unfolds, I'll tell you about Anne Sheridan and the Sign of the Sphinx. Yeah. If it's Amazon, they will have dropped the boxes and run away. Will it be something good? Anyway, Anne Sheridan and the Sign of the Sphinx. A book from the late 30s, early 40s, published by Whitman Books. So they did a whole series of these sort of what we now call young adult, I suppose. Some of which, things like books of established sort of characters like Dick Tracy. Oh, it's
That
a package.
looks and feels like a brick of paperbacks. To
Better look at that. We might have a
Might
surprise
have an
unwrapping, yeah. Anyway, Anne Sheridan. Right, yes. So they published these books. You've got characters in from the comics like Blondie and Dagwood, but also these ones with real actresses in mystery stories, such as Betty Grable and The House with the Iron Shutters. Anne Sheridan, The Sign of the Sphinx, this one. Jane Withers and The Phantom Violin. Anne Rutherford and The Key to Nightmare Hall. Ginger Rogers and The Riddle of the Scarlet Cloak, which I own and have reviewed in an earlier video. Deanna Durbin, The Adventure of the Blue Valley. And there are some others as well. And oddly, even oddlier, sometimes they are themselves, they're Hollywood actresses who get embroiled in a mystery as a sort of, something that happens in their life. But sometimes they're like a regular person who is not a film star, but sort of has the characteristics of that person. So the Ginger Rogers one, she's a telephonist in a hotel, but she's sort of Ginger Rogers-like. Extra added weird dimension to that, number one. It was written by Ginger Rogers' mother. Another point, in the story, the Ginger Rogers hotel telephonist has a mother, and it's a story about sort of reconciliation between them. So it's like, here's a roundabout way to communicate with your offspring. Write a weird novelisation with them in. Anyway, this Anne Sheridan one, Anne Sheridan is actually an actress. She's visiting an old friend. She comes to this small town where her friend runs a sort of beauty parlour. And her friend and the other woman who works there, they're curiously unsettled. And it turns out other woman has been... her mum's disappeared, and she's been getting these weird threatening notes with a Sphinx symbol on them saying, "You are bidden." And it turns into a story with a sort of quite pulpy kind of hidden temple kind of place with a mystic pool and a big Sphinx character and hooded figures and chanting, and it's all a scam. And in fact it's transparently a scam. You can't fool Anne Sheridan very long, but also it's like, the Sphinx is just papier-mâché rubbish, and the gowns are like really cheap and nasty and horrible. So there must be some sort of hypnosis or drugging or whatever to get these people to go along with it, because they're just like, here, take all my money and jewellery. And they're all going to be killed in the mystic pool unless Anne Sheridan can save them. What a great book. So I read that, and now, if I can find something sharp enough, I will open this package. Sorry, I haven't really got the right tool.
A pair of scissors, dear.
Ha! These might do it.
You have to say it. If all they are is paperback.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that literally paperback. Then well wrapped up.
I know, it's more like a brick of heroin.
Now that came yesterday.
Oh
that
God.
white powder you keep showing me, or is that bicarbonate?
We went to Amsterdam once, and Jennie likes to have bicarbonate of soda with her, and she decided
me tummy.
a way to take it would be to put it into a little film canister, those little plastic 35 ml containers you used to get. So basically there's this container of unmarked white powder, and we're coming back from Amsterdam with it.
And we get stuffed.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, luckily they have like a testing equipment in the back of the customs place.
They took it in the back and made a cake with it. That's how they knew it was bicarbonate.
Yeah, could be 20 years in a Peruvian jail.
Eating the same cake.
It's the fabled Captain's Table series of Star Trek novelisation. Well, not novelisation, Star Trek tie-ins that people say these are really good. So we've got, it's Kathryn Janeway, told in her own words, Fire Ship, as reported by Diane Carey. So there's a framing concept. I guess it's a kind of the captains get together for some kind of booze up now and again. Benjamin Sisko in The Mist. Christine Catherine Roosh. It's Captain Picard. Jujonian's Horde. And it's Kirk and Sulu, as recorded by L.A. Graff. Oh, good. I look forward to those. Right. So, like I say, signing off during Holy Week. We'll be back when the season of Easter has commenced properly. So get your lectionaries out and you can predict when I'll be reappearing again with another video talking about something else. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Yes,
Oh, right, our hat's coming back.